It is often assumed that if you are outnumbered in a debate, you are at a disadvantage. It is often assumed that a 1 versus 1 debate is easier and fairer than a 1 versus 5 debate. But is this actually true? I used to spend a lot of time debating people. Often I debated numerous people at once, without support. Often I was outnumbered. It is my view that being outnumbered is not always a disadvantage. Oftentimes, a 1 versus 3 or even a 1 versus 5 debate is easier than a 1 versus 1 debate. Oftentimes, I find it easier to debate numerous opponents than to debate one. Being outnumbered does have its disadvantages. Your opponents have more brains. Your opponents usually will have more speaking time. But there are some major advantages to being outnumbered. For one, the audience will have a lower expectation of you. They will expect you to lose because you appear to be at a major disadvantage. This means that if you do lose, they will regard it as less of a hit to your credibility and to the credibility of your ideas. This means that if you win, the victory will be all the greater. This also makes it easier to win because the bar is lower. When you appear to be at a disadvantage, people will lower their expectations. So it becomes easier to meet and exceed their expectations. This is one advantage of being outnumbered in a debate. There are other advantages too. The more people you are debating, the higher the chance that one of them is an idiot. The more opponents you have, the higher the likelihood that one of them is a moron. If one of them is a fool, you can just bash them over and over again and frame them as a representative of their whole side. Use the one idiot to drag down all of your opponents and make them all look like fools. The more opponents, the more arguments. The more arguments, the higher the likelihood of idiotic arguments. Identify these idiotic arguments and smack them down. Use them to make all of your opponents look bad. Make your strongest opponents look bad through association with the moron. Use the moron to distract from the good points your opponents may offer. Identify the idiots and exploit their stupidity to make all of your opponents look like fools. This is not very difficult. A few idiots can easily drag down an entire side. One idiotic opponent can easily distract from countless good opposing arguments. People will not remember the good arguments of your opponents if you constantly emphasize their idiotic arguments. And this is easier when you have lots of opponents because it becomes more likely that one of them will say something stupid. A large number of opponents almost always means a range of opposing arguments. Choose the weakest ones and tear them to shreds. This will make all of your opponents look bad by association. Use the bad arguments to distract from the good arguments. The abundance of opponents will prevent your opponents from making a single simple argument. A single simple argument is the ultimate debate weapon. As soon as things become complicated, good arguments get lost, and bad arguments can be emphasized and weaknesses uncovered. A large number of opponents ensures that new arguments will constantly be coming up. This makes it harder for your opponents to corner you with one argument, and makes it easier for you to engage them on terms favourable to yourself. Take advantage of distractions. Bury your opponent's good points in their allies' bad points. Being outnumbered can be an advantage if you know how to best navigate it. Being outnumbered in a debate can be beneficial. Some may insist that I am treating debate as a strategy game, not a serious intellectual pursuit. And of course I am. Debate is first and foremost a battle of rhetorical strategy. Debate is also an intellectual exercise that allows us to pick apart and test various arguments. But it is primarily a struggle of rhetorical strategy. That is why those who are correct often lose debates, and those who are wrong often win debates. Debate is first and foremost about rhetorical strategy. The ideas involved and their intellectual credibility is secondary. That is a simple fact. There is nothing dishonest about recognizing that debate is a battle of rhetorical strategy first and foremost. If you want to promote your ideas effectively, you must recognize and embrace this reality.